Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something truly extraordinary. Göbekli Tepe.
Ah, yes, the site in Turkey.
Exactly. Imagine this.
Grr.
A huge temple complex, right? But built by hunter-gatherers. We're talking millennia before anyone even thought about farming or even making pottery.
Mm-hmm. It really does force a rethink of, well, pretty much everything we thought we knew about the Stone Age.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Really get into how old Göbekli Tepe is, what makes its architecture so unique, the symbolism.
What the symbolism is fascinating.
Right, and what it all means for human history, plus, all the questions we still have.
Absolutely, and there are many.
We've pulled together information from archaeological reports, news articles, trying to get a rounded picture.
A good synthesis, yeah. It's a complex site, needs that kind of approach.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. How did we even find this place? It wasn't obvious, was it?
No, not at all. It was actually kind of accidental. Back in the 60s, a survey team was in the area. They saw the hill, saw some broken limestone bits, but they basically dismissed it, thought it was maybe, I don't know, a medieval cemetery or something, just rubble.
Huh, so it just sat there.
For decades, until the mid-90s. That's when Klaus Schmidt, a German archaeologist, came along. He'd read that old brief survey report and thought, maybe there's more to this.
And was there.
Oh, yeah. He went there, took one look, and apparently knew almost immediately this wasn't medieval rubble, this was Stone Age. And it was huge. Something completely different.
Huge and ancient. The age is just staggering when you compare it to other famous sites.
It really is. We're talking older than the pyramids, older than Stonehenge by thousands of years.
How do we know the age so precisely?
Well, through carbon dating, they've dated organic material like bits of charcoal or bone found trapped in the plaster used in the walls and structures.
Sure, radiocarbon dating.
Exactly. And other techniques, too. It pins the main construction period down to between roughly 9,500 and 8,000 BCE.
Which puts it where in the timeline?
Smack bang in the pre-pottery Neolithic A and B periods. So the early Neolithic, before widespread pottery use, we're talking around 11,600 years ago for the earliest parts.
Wow, 11,600 years. And you said Stonehenge. How much older?
Over 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. 6 millennia. It's almost difficult to comprehend that time scale.
It really is. And this wasn't just like a single building project, right? It happened over time.
Definitely. It wasn't built all at once. Klaus Schmidt first thought maybe 3 main layers, 3 phases.
Right.
But now, with more digging and crucially more radiocarbon dates, the picture is more complex. We're looking at probably at least 8 distinct phases of building and rebuilding.
8 phases. Over how long?
Spanning maybe 1,500 years in total, so people kept coming back, kept modifying things, building new enclosures.
First the circular ones, then later more rectangular structures?
That seems to be the pattern, yes. The big circular enclosures are the earliest. It shows this long, evolving use of the site. Maybe their rituals changed, maybe society changed over those centuries, and eventually actual domestic-type buildings started appearing around the main ritual areas.
So these people, pre-farming hunter-gatherers,
Yeah.
what exactly did they build? Describe these structures for us.
Okay, this is where it gets really wild. The main things are these enclosures, these large circular spaces, and later some rectangular ones too.
Right.
And inside them stand these massive T-shaped pillars made of limestone.
T-shaped. That's unusual.
Very distinctive and huge. Some are, 16, maybe 18 feet tall, weighing 7, 10 tons, maybe more.
10 tons?
Yep. These are the oldest known megaliths anywhere in the world.
Incredible. How are they arranged? Just randomly?
No, there's a clear pattern. In the circular enclosures, you typically find a pair of the largest T-pillars standing in the center, facing each other. And then around the edges, built into the walls, are smaller T-pillars, also facing inwards towards the center pair, and sometimes stone benches between them.
And we know there are more buried.
Oh, definitely. Geophysical surveys using ground-penetrating radar and things like that show there are at least 16 more big enclosures still underground. Probably more. What we've excavated is just a fraction of the site.
It just beggars belief that hunter-gatherers could do this. Quarrying, moving, carving those stones. With what? Flint tools.
Pretty much, yes, flint tools. The sophistication is astounding. They didn't just erect giant stones, they carved intricate reliefs onto them.
Carvings of what?
Mostly animals, a whole zoo, really. Gazelles, snakes, foxes, big cats like lions, vultures, scorpions, boars, wild sheep, deer, even birds like ducks and geese.
A whole range. Any humans?
Humans are rare, actually. There's one famous carving of a headless man with a phallus. Some of the T-pillars themselves seem anthropomorphic. They have carvings that look like arms running down the sides, sometimes even belts or loincloths. And there's a slab with a naked female figure scratched onto it.
And abstract symbols, too.
Yes, lots of abstract signs alongside the animals. Things like H shapes, crescents, discs. We don't know what they mean, of course.
So what are the theories about all this symbolism? The animals, the shapes?
Well, it's debated, naturally. One idea is that the animals, especially the dangerous ones, snakes, scorpions, lions, which seem more common than, say, deers. Maybe they were totems for different groups gathering there.
Like clan symbols?
Possibly. Or maybe they were protective figures meant to ward off evil spirits or dangers, the abstract signs. Well, they could be sacred symbols like religious icons almost, shared meanings we just can't access anymore.
And the vultures. You mentioned vultures.
Yes, vultures are quite prominent. And that's interesting because you see similar vulture symbolism at later Neolithic sites like Çatalhöyük. It often gets linked to beliefs about death, maybe excarnation, leaving bodies out for vultures to clean the bones. So perhaps ideas about the afterlife were already developing.
It definitely sounds like a place for ritual, for ceremony. And for a long time, people thought it wasn't a place people lived.
Yeah, that was the initial interpretation, yeah. Klaus Schmidt strongly argued it was a purely ritual center. A cathedral on a hill, he called it.
Why? What was missing?
Well, they weren't finding the usual signs of everyday life. No cooking hearths, no houses, no big rubbish dumps filled with domestic waste. It looked like people came here, did their rituals, and left. Maybe nomadic groups meeting up.
But the picture's changed a bit now, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. More recent work, especially in areas around the main enclosures, has turned up things that look much more like permanent, or at least semi-permanent, settlement.
Look what?
Things like actual buildings, smaller rectangular structures that seem domestic, lots of grinding stones for processing wild cereals, tools, and even a pretty sophisticated system for collecting rainwater channels carved into the rock, cisterns for storage.
Ah, okay. So maybe not just a temple, but a settlement too. Or maybe both.
Exactly. It complicates the picture. It suggests people might have been living there, at least for part of the year, perhaps a more sedentary lifestyle than we first thought. So yes, maybe it was a ritual center and a place where a community lived.
This whole discovery just turns the standard story of human history on its head, doesn't it?
Completely. The old textbook narrative was always, first, humans invent farming, then they settle down in villages because they need to tend crops.
Then, once they're settled and have surplus food, they develop complex societies, religion, build big monuments.
Right. Agriculture first, then complexity and monumental building. But Göbekli Tepe flips that script.
How so?
Because here you have massive, complex construction, clear evidence of organized religion or ritual, sophisticated art, all before agriculture really took hold in the area. These were hunter-gatherers doing this.
So the implication is
What?
that religion came first?
Or at least the need to gather, to perform communal rituals, to build something together. Maybe that drive was what pushed people towards settling down. Maybe the sheer logistics of building Göbekli Tepe required people to stay in one place longer, to organize labor, to figure out how to feed everyone involved.
So the social and ritual needs might have actually spurred the invention of agriculture rather than the other way around.
That's the revolutionary idea, yeah. That the coordinated effort needed here, quarrying those huge stones, dragging them, carving them, erecting them, required a level of social organization, cooperation, maybe even leadership that we just didn't associate with hunter-gatherers before.
How many people would it have taken?
Estimates vary a lot, obviously, but we're likely talking, at least dozens, maybe even hundreds of people working together over long periods. It suggests a pretty complex social structure was already in place.
It's a huge shift in thinking. The idea that sociocultural changes, like developing these shared beliefs and rituals strong enough to motivate building this, that might have come first, and farming followed to support it.
Exactly. It suggests the roots of civilization might lie more in shared ideas and social projects than purely in economic changes like farming.
Mind-blowing stuff. But even with all we've learned, there must still be huge gaps in our knowledge. What are the big mysteries?
Oh, plenty. The most basic ones are still there. What was the exact purpose of those T-pillars? Are they ancestors, gods, spirits? We just don't know.
And the carvings, their precise meaning.
Still elusive. We can make educated guesses based on context and later parallels, like the vultures, but the specific meaning for the people who made them, lost to time, probably.
What about the end of its use? Why was it buried?
That's another huge enigma. Around 8,000 BCE, the entire site seems to have been deliberately buried, carefully covered over with earth and debris.
Deliberately, not just abandoned and collapsed.
It looks deliberate, yeah. Why? Was it to protect it? Was it some kind of ritual closure? Did beliefs change? We have no idea. It's really strange.
And didn't they find human bones? Skulls?
Yes, fragments of human skulls have been found, some with deep, deliberate cuts on them. This has led to theories about a possible skull cult, some kind of ritual practice involving human heads or skulls, which again, you see parallels for later in the Neolithic.
So adding another layer of ritual complexity.
Absolutely. And it feeds into that ongoing debate. Purely a temple, or a settlement too. The skull fragments, the potential burial connection, it keeps the question open. Was it maybe partly a center for funerary rites?
Were there any other theories? I seem to remember something about astronomy.
Yeah, there was some speculation early on that it might have been an astronomical observatory, aligned to stars or something. But the main archaeological team working there has largely discounted that. There isn't strong evidence for precise astronomical alignments in the structures themselves.
So mainly ritual, maybe some settlement, possibly connected to death rituals.
Yeah.
But still lots of unknowns.
Exactly. And remember, we've probably only excavated maybe 10% of the whole site, maybe less.
Only 10%. Wow.
Yeah, those geophysical surveys suggest there could be, 20 or more of these big enclosures in total still buried. So who knows what future digging might reveal.
Future excavations could find more enclosures, maybe different types of structures, more clues about daily life, or more symbolic items.
Precisely. We might get a clearer idea of how the different enclosures relate to each other, whether the function changed over time, maybe even find more burials or evidence that clarifies the rituals they performed. It's still very much an active area of discovery.
Okay, so let's just quickly wrap up the key points. Göbekli Tepe, incredibly old, like 11,600 years old.
Built by hunter-gatherers before farming and pottery.
Features unique T-shaped megalithic pillars covered in amazing carvings, animals, abstract symbols, hints of human forms.
And its existence really challenges that old story of agriculture leading to complex society. Here, it seems like complex ritual and social organization might have come first.
Triggering maybe the move towards settlement and farming. But huge mysteries remain.
Huge mysteries. The meaning of the pillars, the carvings, why they buried it all.
The skull fragments.
Right. Lots still to figure out.
And it really boils down to that fundamental question, doesn't it? What on earth drove these pre-agricultural people to invest so much time, energy, and cooperation into building something so monumental?
That's the million-dollar question. What belief system, what social imperative was powerful enough to make this happen so early?
It forces you to think, doesn't it? If people had this capacity for complex thought, symbolism, and large-scale organization so far back, what else don't we know? What other assumptions about our deep past might be completely wrong?
It certainly opens up a lot of possibilities.
A truly profound sight to consider. Thanks for unpacking all of that with us today.
My pleasure. It's endlessly fascinating.